OpenStreetMap.org is a collection of open source data inputted by people like you, and this is London. So it's freely available for anyone to use, for anyone to download, to manipulate, to add to the database, and for use for your own purpose. So instead of, if you were to have a Google map or anything like that, where you will be kind of licensing issues and things like that, it's open, it's freely available, and as Ivan said, people are using it in the field for logistical purposes. So what we're going to be doing tonight is mapping an area. Now, if we all mapped exactly the same area, we would be looking at a satellite image, and we would all be looking at the same house or the same road, and we'd be mapping it 65 times. So obviously that's not going to be great. So the way we do it is we use a tasking manager. So if we were to click on a task, which I'm going to have. So this is what a task looks like. So if we go to the tasking manager and you search, or if you click on any of the tasks, what you'll be shown is this. So a series of different squares, some of which will be green, some of which are orange, and some of which are clear. And basically, what we're trying to do here is kind of add data, but strategically. So everyone selects a square individually to say that they're mapping that small area. So if you look on here, so we've got the clear tasks, clear squares. They are tasks that nobody's working on at the moment, and you can go and work on them. So if we click on that one, we can start mapping. I'm not logged in at the moment, so the first thing to do would be to log into OpenStreetMap on here. You can then start mapping. So what I'm going to do is log into OpenStreetMap. Can everyone else do this while I'm doing it? So everyone log in. Do it all together. A little bit disorganized given the Wi-Fi issues earlier. Apologise for that. So if we all go to, if you go back to this. So from the main tasking manager page, if you search task number 792, and that will come up with a project called Amtiman in Chad. You can see you've got loads of squares, lots of work to be done. The first thing to do, very first thing to do, is read the information. There is an absolute ton of information on each of these projects. There's loads of information about instructions, so how to kind of add tags to certain things. But for now, I will dive straight in because I am aware of the tagging information. And we have Wi-Fi. Okay, I'm going to scrap that and I'm going to swap back to this. Okay, so I've swapped to the presentation for the moment. So we basically take a satellite image like this, where you can see forest and basically there's no information there at the moment. And what we're going to do is identify, digitize roads, tracks, paths, buildings, important areas, strategic areas, say for places where you might need to land a helicopter or a land use area or a hospital, things like that. Lots of information that can all be put into OpenStreetMap for people to use. Then when we upload the data, anyone can download it, put it on their phone, use it as a sat-nav in their car, as a way of tagging things, as a way of lots of different things, and it's all to use. So we use it in disaster response, as Pete was saying, for contact tracing in Ebola hit regions and things like that. And kind of what is the result? Why do we do it? Well, we've got an area of Gulu in Uganda. On the left is what it looked like before one of these mapping events, and that's what it looks like after one of the events. So you've got houses, you've got extra roads, you've got streets, you've got loads more detail than what you had prior to a mapathon just like this. So ideally, the aim of the evening tonight is to completely finish the Amtiman task in Chad, And hopefully we've got another task in eastern Iraq where there's absolutely nothing done to it. So there's loads of information, loads of road information to put in there as well. And that's going to be the idea there. So, everyone is signed into OpenStreetMap now? Yep. Anyone not signed into OpenStreetMap yet? Okay. So, first thing you'll come across is a walkthrough page. For now, I would ignore it, but you can pick it up at any time just on the bar on the right-hand side when you get into ID. Don't worry about that too much for now. And the tasking manager. So log into the tasking manager as you would, as you've already done, and you'll get all the information on the left-hand side about the task and how things are input into the database. Squares. So, great. Clear square is no one's working on it at the moment. A clear square with an orange little box around it is someone's working on it at the moment. An orange square is where someone has worked on it and decided that they have checked everything, they've finished everything in that square. So they have decided that all the roads are kind of good, all of the things that need tracing have been traced. So that's when it's had one person look at it. When another person looks at it, because every single square that we do has a second person to look at it to validate, to make sure that nothing's been missed, nothing's overlapping, things like that. That's when the second look comes, and that's when someone says, okay, shall we say this is complete and it's good, or do we need some more work? Maybe someone has missed a couple of buildings or missed a certain aspect of it. So first of all, they would say, right, okay, that's good, validate it, it turns to green. If there's some work needed, then they can invalidate it. They'll send you a message to say, okay, this bit is maybe needs a little bit of work in this. It's not a kind of this isn't good enough and chuck it out and delete everything and kind of slam you. It's very much a learning process for everyone. Everyone knows that everyone here is learning, so it's not a process whereby if we say it's invalidated then you're out, you're off the team. It's just a nice pleasant chat of and if you need some help with an aspect that they've cropped up on, send them a message back or ask someone around you. And it probably will be the person that's validating it will be sat in there today, so have a face-to-face conversation if you like. Okay, so how do we contribute? Let's get to this page. So when you go to the Contribute tab on the Tasking Manager, you'll see a drop-down menu with Edit With. Now for this demonstration and for today, we're going to be using the ID editor. It's a it's a very simple editor to get used to map roads and buildings and all of the basics. When you start to become more comfortable with using ID editor, I would suggest shifting to JOSM. Doesn't matter what that means at the moment, but JOSM is basically the more in-depth. You can do a lot more things with it. You can be more precise. And there's basically more features. But for now, we're going to be using ID to get everyone started, to get everyone up and running, and to get everyone going, ideally, to make some maps. Okay, and there you go. As you can see, there's a lot more features on the right-hand side in JOSM, and ID is a little bit more kind of clean-skinned for this first bit. So, what you'll get when you map a square, or when you first load a square, when you've contributed, when you've clicked start mapping, you're given another tab, basically, another tab in your browser, which will be the ID editor window. You get a purple square, which is the extent of your square, the extent of the area that you're mapping. You can map outside of that area, but don't forget that you're essentially going to be mapping into an area that someone else is also mapping. So if you've got a building that kind of goes across the purple square, fine. Add it, but then save your edits immediately. Try not to do anything kind of too far over the purple lines, because you'll end up just having stuff added on top of each other. So try and keep within your square at all costs, really. And if you do end up going outside of the square, save straight away. Save the ID editor on the right hand side. You've got a series of different options. You can do things like change the background contrast, which is this kind of bar, grayscale bar. Chuck it on the one on the left and it tends to bring it a bit more brighter so you can see it a little bit more clear. The other thing to also turn on are GPS tracks and traces. GPS traces, sorry. So these are traces, GPS traces that people have input into OpenStreetMap for people to map. They haven't been mapped yet, so use them when they are there because they're probably the most accurate thing, kind of ground truthing that we've got. Okay, so 3 types of things that we can add to the OpenStreetMap database: points, lines, and polygons. Or areas, sorry. Points, lines, and areas. So a point would be something like a postbox or a tree or something like individual features. We tend not to be as interested in point features unless they are perhaps village kind of village names and things like that. The main thing we are interested in are things like lines for roads, lines for walls and things like that, and then areas. Areas of buildings and land use cover and lots of other things like that. So they're the basic things that we'll probably be using today, is lines and areas. So they're the 3 options that you've got at the top of your ID editor. You'll notice on the side it says save. So every time you make a new line or add a bit of information to that line, this number will go up. If it goes up past 10, stop. Immediately save it. If it goes past any further than that, it'll be on to you, telling you to immediately save.
It's important. You actually have to end up hitting save twice. It's slightly... It's not obvious. When you hit save, a little side dialog comes up, asks you to give it a commit message, and then hit save again. And lots of people don't see the second side dialog and actually never end up saving their entire evening sync. And the more edits you do, the more likely you are to have conflict with one of the other people in the room, and you could lose work. So just save often and make sure you actually save.
The other thing
twice.
From the second save menu that you might get are things that highlight issues with the things that you are uploading. So when we draw a line, you need to tell the database what that line actually is. Is it a road? Is it a wall? Is it a residential road? Or is it depends on what type of road it is. So you can literally tell the OpenStreetMap database what it is and tag it. If you're trying to upload an untagged line into the database, it will say, hang on a second, I have no idea what this line is, it's just the line, please tell me what it is. So you'll see that on the second dialog box. On this side, don't worry about that for now. So when you come to tagging a line, like I've just said, you need to give it information. If it's a road, search for road. You get a series of options, drop-down options. Now, people often have difficulty deciding what kind of road they are looking at. Completely normal. I mean, you don't live in that area, so you don't know what it is. There are lots of different things. There's a highways tagging walkthrough. There'll be on the information tab on the task manager. So that's a really good thing to look at. So you can have a look through what the roads mean and how we use them. If the road is within a residential area, it's a residential road. Anything outside of that needs to be either an unclassified road or a tertiary, primary, or secondary road. So have a look at the information. This is where the information tab comes in really handy for kind of working out what kind of road you've got, and have a look. It's a lot easier than trying to tell you on here because there's so many different examples, and it's more a judgment call than anything else. If you see that your road goes into another road that's already marked, you know, are you doing the same road as that if it's the same kind of road? Because, you know, that purple boundary only exists in here. It doesn't exist in the real world. So if your road is a kind of a primary road and then it goes into a track, something's wrong there. So you need to check to make consistent throughout. Okay, you can add as many tags as you see fit. There's lots of information that you can put in there. A good one for this kind of stuff is splitting roads where they come to bridges. So if you mapping a road, if you imagine you come to a bridge, you can literally have the road stop, another section of the road which is the bridge, and then road carry on as normal. So you just tag that in a structure as a bridge. So that's really useful if you've got a flooded region where bridges may or may not be broken, damaged. People need to know where those bridges are. Simple as. Okay, so you need to check. Okay, yeah, the other thing is you'll probably come across squares where things have already been mapped. So these will be squares where people have started, haven't managed to finish them, or they've been invalidated, so you're adding extra detail to that area. Make sure that that information is that's in there is correct. Do you think it's correct what's in there? If it's not, edit it, or try not to delete en masse a lot of things. That's never a great thing, but edit it and see if you can kind of make it into the best of its possibility. And for now, yeah, so this is the second save page that was mentioned earlier. Make sure you save that. Make sure you see that save button and save it as often as you can. If you come up to like 10, you've done 10 or 15 edits and then you've lost them, you won't be pretty happy. So this is from a walkthrough that is on the internet at the moment on the OSM walkthrough pages. It's typical kind of West African area mapping. So you've got a series of residential areas linked by various paths or tracks or things like that. And this is, yeah. First of all, when you draw a road that connects to another road, they need to connect, essentially. So if you're mapping a road and you've got another road coming into it and you finish it here, if you don't connect them, nobody will know if they're connected or not. So that if you have a sat-nav and you're going straight down a road and there's a gap in the road, you won't be able to go that way. It will not happen. If you've got a road crossing a road and you don't click to make sure that the roads actually have a dot where they cross, again, you won't be able to turn off that road. So those are really important things to just remember. So if you have crossing roads, make sure there's a dot in between. You can literally just click the dot, drag it onto the second road, and then it'll be tagged. If anyone wants any hand, if you've got crossing roads, do shout, because if you don't do it, it becomes a problem in the future that no one will pick up on until then. How are we getting on? Is everyone warm enough? And the final thing to mention is don't be afraid of mapping things. I think the first problem when I started, and the same with a lot of people, would have been they're kind of worried about, is that a building or is it something else? Is it this? Ask the people around you. It's really important that you kind of use this time to find out what other people are doing and how people are doing. There's lots of experienced people in the room as well, so ask them how they would do things or what they would do in this situation, and just share kind of information and what you've seen. And if there's a weird situation where you're not really sure or nobody's really sure, then share it. If you've found a solution to it, share it around and let people know how it's gone.